Just real quick, Detective, when was the first time you heard this phone call?
June 9th, 2020.
Where were you when you heard it?
I was at the property of 202 North, 1900 East, Chad Daybell's residence.
Were you there for the search of Chad Daybell's residence on June 9th?
Yes,
And so you accessed this phone call from that location.
correct.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
You may.
This is a call from and paid for by
Lori.
an inmate at Madison County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Telmate.
Hi, babe.
Hello.
Are you okay?
So they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm an MS. Mark means we'll be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, and so what I'm interested in is with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to set up a call. I'm glad you called.
Yeah.
And we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
What do you want me to do? Pray.
What?
What do you want me
Yeah,
to
pray. Pray. Yeah.
Okay. What can I do for you?
I'm feeling pretty calm. I would call Mark, though, maybe. And just talk with him.
Have you talked to him already?
I did call him, yes.
So he knows what they're doing.
Yeah. It's like a call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
Okay, I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. You can try, yeah. I'll answer if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. I love you.
Okay. Love you. Goodbye.
Detective, do you know approximately what time of day that phone call was made?
Around 11 o'clock in the afternoon.
Your Honor, the state will be recalling Detective Kai Kamani for other things, but at this time we have no further questions.
All right, Mr. Pryor, would you prefer to cross-examination or cross-examine at this time or save that for when he's recalled? Very well.
And officer, you've also, or coming back, you've got a subpoena from my office as well to show up, and we've made arrangements for that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Officer, Prosecutor Wood asked you where you were on June 9th of 2020,
Correct.
and you were at the Daybell residence. Is that right?
Yes.
Any idea how many other officers were there at that time?
I can't recall how many other officers and agencies were there.
Was it more than 10?
Yes.
More than 15?
Yes.
Okay. So more than 30?
Yes.
Okay. So 30 police officers from various agencies, obviously, right?
Correct.
Right. And at that point, I heard on the tape where Mr. Daybell mentioned that he was at Emma's. Now, do you know who he's talking about when he says Emma?
His daughter.
Okay. And in relation to the house, where does Emma live?
At the time of this incident, Emma lived kitty corner, roughly from Mr. Daybell's home.
That would be what, the southeast corner?
The southwest.
Southwest, excuse me,
Yes.
my southwest corner of the property. But it
Correct.
was kitty corner,
Yeah.
relatively close to the Daybell, Chad Daybell's house, right?
Yes.
Within walking distance.
Yes.
So he was over there and there were no restrictions on his movement. Is that right?
Correct.
And he could come and go as he pleases.
At that time, yes.
Right. And at that point, you overheard him talk about a Mark Means.
On the phone call, yes.
Right. Okay. And on the phone call, he said he was going to talk to somebody else.
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever learn who he was trying to talk to, that other person?
I did not.
Okay. Did you have an occasion to be present when Officer Wheeler and Officer Hope were recording the interaction with Mr. Daybell?
I was not.
Okay. Okay. And at that point, if Mr. Daybell were to be leaving at that time that this phone call took place, he would have the right to do that, and there was no restriction stopping him.
Correct.
And he could go if he wanted to meet somebody or meet up with somebody, he'd have that opportunity.
Correct.
Now, would you agree with me with 30 plus officers showing up at your house that would cause you a concern? The average citizen.
To the average citizen, yes.
In fact, you probably agree with me that you were were you a street officer at some point with Fremont County?
Yes.
Patrol officer?
Yes.
And when a police officer puts on his lights and gets behind you and pulls you over, that's an emotional or at least an unnerving experience as well, right?
Yes.
So you would suggest that when 30 plus police officers show up at your house and search, that would cause you to have some concern, right?
I'd be nervous, yes.
More than nervous, right?
I'd be nervous.
All right. Okay. Now, Lori Vallow made mention that search again. And you're nodding your head. Had you been out there previously to search the Daybell property?
I have not been out there
Are
previous.
you aware as the manager, and I don't want to use the incorrect term, you are the supervisor of this case. Would that be fair? Or is there a better term?
Over the Fremont County portion of it, yes.
Okay. Are you aware as part of your investigation as to whether or not anybody else had been out in any of the law enforcement agencies on Mr. Daybell's property previous to that time?
Yes, I was aware.
All right. How many times are you aware that they've been out on his property prior to that time?
Prior to that time, I believe they were out in January of 2020 doing a search of the house.
Okay. Any other times?
Not that I can recall right now.
Did anybody from your agency ever go out to the Daybell property unannounced and search the property without a large group of officers?
Unannounced? No.
All right. How about announced and saying we're going to go out and just look around?
With a search warrant, yes.
Okay. And was that in the January occasion?
Correct.
There was no other occasion that officers went out there. Is that what you're telling me?
I can't recall what other dates we were out there,
Okay.
but yes,
But there were other dates that you were out there looking at the property. Is that fair?
correct.
Okay. A number of them?
No,
More than 5?
no.
Now, as part of your investigation of this case, you've interviewed a number of witnesses in this case. Would that be fair?
Correct.
You've interviewed Melanie Gibb
Correct.
several times.
One time.
Okay. Regan Price,
Yes.
how many times?
One time.
Zaluma Pastenes,
Approximately 3 or 4 times. I'd have to
Okay.
check my notes.
and then Garth Daybell, Chad's son. You've interviewed him a couple of times.
One time.
Okay. And where was that interview?
That was done at Rexburg PD.
Okay. And in that occasion, you showed up at Garth Daybell's house. Is that right? Or did you show up at the school?
We went to the school. Yes.
Okay. And at the school, it's where Garth was working. Is that right?
Correct. I wouldn't consider that an interview.
Okay. Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
But at some point, you approached Mr. Daybell, and who was with you at that point?
Special Agent Ricky Wright?
Okay. Anybody else?
No.
And at that point, you took Garth and asked that he go down to the police station with you. Is that right?
No, not at that time.
Okay. But you mentioned that you approached Garth Daybell at the school
Correct.
and that the interview, or at least what you said may not have been an interview, took place at the police station.
So there was 2 different times.
Oh, okay.
One time we talked with Garth at the school to advise him of the findings of his mother's death.
Okay.
That I would not consider an interview.
Okay.
The second interview was done at Rexburg, or the first interview that we brought him in to Rexburg PD.
Okay. And when you say brought him in, where did you first have contact with him on the day you brought him in to the Rexburg Police Department?
That we made contact with him at his home.
And at that point, did he have a choice at that point, or were you taking him into custodial care at that point?
At that time, it was custodial care to come in and talk with us.
Okay, so he didn't have an option. He was going to go to the Rexburg Police Department. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and then how long was he at the Rexburg Police Department on that particular day?
I'd have to look. I want to say a couple hours.
And at that point, did you ever talk to him?
Small talk until his attorney got there.
Okay,
Got him some McDonald's, some pop.
okay. But at that point, there was nothing in terms of the interview with Garth on that particular day. Is that right?
Not until his attorney got there.
Okay. Okay. And do you have a recollection of how long it took for an attorney for him to get there?
I don't, off the top of my head. I'd have to look in my notes on that.
Now, we're going to be revisiting that in a little while in terms of the audio or the videotapes of Chad on June 9th. Did you have an opportunity to review the audio and the videotapes of Chad and Emma on June 9th?
I have not.
Okay, so you don't have any information about those?
I
That
do
wasn't
not.
part of your investigation in this case?
I do not.
Okay, okay. Other than law enforcement on June 9th of 2020 and June 10th of 2020, other than law enforcement, was there anybody on the scene at the residence on either of those days who was not a law enforcement officer?
We had the Fremont County coroner there,
Okay,
and a few cadaver dogs.
okay,
I believe that's it.
okay. Nobody else?
Not that I can recall at that time, no.
And were you there the entire time, or were you there just for a short period of time?
The entire time.
The entire time would have been from like 7 o'clock in the morning until when on the 9th?
We finished up about 4 or 5 on the 9th.
Okay. And the last part I want to cover, and we're going to revisit some stuff. I mean, we'll do this in pieces, obviously. When you were in there in January of what year again? I'm sorry.
2020.
Okay, when you were there in January of 2020, you also brought cadaver dogs, right?
Are you referring to the warrant that was done January 2020?
Yes, that's what I'm referring to.
I was not at that search warrant, so
Okay. And I don't know why I thought you were. Do you have any knowledge as to whether or not they brought cadaver dogs that day?
I can't recall if they did or didn't.
Okay, Judge, that's all I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pryor. Mr. Wood, any redirect?
Just briefly, Your Honor. The defense spoke to you about nervousness. Correct?
Correct.
That's a normal reaction when you're pulled over by the police.
Correct.
Have you listened to multiple jail phone calls between Mr. Daybell and Lori when she was in custody?
Yes.
Was the tone of this phone call normal?
I would require some additional foundation for that, Mr. Wood.
Okay.
So I'll overrule the objection at this point.
Has it been a regular part of your investigation to listen to jail phone calls between Chad and Lori?
Yes.
And you've listened to many of them.
Yes.
And in listening to those, would you say that the phone call on June 9th, that the tone of that phone call is different than their average phone call?
It's overruled with additional foundation. I will permit any recross just on this issue as well, though, Mr. Pryor. Go ahead, Mr. Wood.
Was it a different tone?
Yes.
Were you present on Mr. Daybell's property when Mr. Daybell drove away?
Yes.
And do you know what was taking place around the time on Mr. Daybell's property when he drove away?
Could you repeat that into your microphone, please?
I'm an object, Judge, on the basis of foundation.
Well, he indicated he was on location when this happened, so that's overruled.
Repeat that. Sorry.
Are you aware of what was happening on Mr. Daybell's property when he drove away from the area?
Yes.
What was happening?
We were looking for two bodies on his property.
All right. And are you aware of when he drove away if one of those bodies was being discovered?
Yes.
Who?
JJ Vallow.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right. If you'd like, Mr. Pryor, I'll allow recross. But limited in scope to those two issues.
All right, thank you, Judge. So you talked a little bit about the tone of the phone call was different. Is that right?
Yes.
And we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that there were over 30 police officers on a piece of property that day, correct?
Yes.
So you would expect that there would be a little different of a tone when 30 police officers at 7 o'clock in the morning arrive at your home. And would that be fair?
That would be fair.
Okay. And then as far as what was going on when Mr. Daybell left, are you aware that Mr. Daybell was going to see an attorney that morning as he was leaving Emma Murray's house?
Objection calls for speculation.
I asked him if he's aware of it.
It's overruled.
Are you aware of that or not?
I was not.
Okay. And again, you didn't have an opportunity to review the videotape of Officer Wheeler or Officer Hope on that morning. Is that right?
Correct.
So you don't know the circumstances or the reason for why Mr. Daybell left his daughter's home kitty corner from the house and drove off, do you?
I am not aware why he drove off.
So to suggest that the fact that they found a body on his property and that was the reason for him driving off, you don't know what the reason Mr. Daybell drove off. There's another reason, or it could be another reason. Would that be fair?
There could be another reason, yes.
Right. All right. That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
All right, thank you.